It's time for the whole 9 yards. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ralph Ventre, fired up and ready to go for week number 5. Another NEC football opener this week. 6 teams are in action. Let's get right to it on our opening drive. We'll start with the first home game of the season for St. Francis. The Red Flash have been road warriors thus far this year, traveling to Montana, Towson, Columbia, and then last week at nationally ranked Albany. Chris Valerial's team is only one of 2 teams in the entire FCS to play the first 4 games of its season on the road. They make their season debut at the Goal Field against Division II Malone on what will be First Responders Day and Family Weekend on the St. Francis campus. You can catch the action live at necfrontrow.com. Robert Morris, which broke into the win column last week against the aforementioned Malone, will now head down to Big South member Liberty. It'll be the 3rd meeting ever between these 2 sides, series tied 1-1. The Colonials, however, will be looking to accomplish something that no NEC team has ever done. NEC teams are 0-4 all time when they play in Lynchburg, Virginia. We'll see if the Colonials can continue their momentum and get the NEC a victory. The game will air on ESPN3. Now moving on to the 3rd member of the NEC's Keystone State contingent, the Duquesne Dukes. The defending NEC champs find themselves at 2-2 heading into a Week 5 matchup at Pioneer League member Jacksonville. It'll be the first ever meeting between these 2 sides as the Dukes look for their 2nd win this season over a PFL foe. They took care of Dayton 34-20 at home in Week 3. Next up on the Week 5 docket, the Bryant Bulldogs, fresh off their conference opening victory, 45-25 over Central Connecticut State, and last week's NEC featured game on ESPN3, the Bulldogs now travel north to CAA member Maine. It'll be the 5th all-time meeting between these 2 sides. The Bulldogs won the most recent matchup between the 2, 13-10, back in September of 2014. Dalton Easton, who was in his first year as Bryant's starting quarterback, hooked up with Chad Ward for the game-winning touchdown with 2 minutes to go. Easton and company will look to pick up the program's first ever road win against Maine this Saturday. Central Connecticut State, Bryant's opponent in last week's NEC opener, they're on a bye in Week 5. They'll return to action on October 8th at Ivy League member Pennsylvania. Now moving on to the marquee matchup on the Week 5 docket. It's the NEC opener for Sacred Heart and Wagner. Both teams coming off road games against prime opponents in Week 4. Wagner fell to ACC member Boston College, while Sacred Heart ran all over CAA member Stony Brook. ESPN3 will carry this game live. You can catch the kickoff at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It's time for our Stock Rising segment. This week, we take a look at Bryant's run game. In particular, senior Ryan Black. The veteran received the bulk of the carries in Bryant's 45-25 triumph over CCSU last week. He ran 27 times for 128 yards, his 2nd career 100-yard rushing performance. The emergence of the Bulldogs' ground game was a key to the victory last week, and it certainly puts a smile on the face of head coach Marty Fine. After the game, Fine noted that the performance was a step in the right direction, and he also stressed the importance of running the ball effectively. He was quoted as saying that we're not going to be successful if we can't run the ball on a consistent basis. The good news for Coach Fine, they may have a bell cow back in Ryan Black his stock is on the rise. I don't know about you, but I could use a breather. So hit me with the Twitter timeout. In this week's Twitter segment, we keep the focus on Bryant's rushing attack. One of the reasons why Ryan Black was so successful last week was the lead blocking of Hunter Towdy. The burly Bulldog contributed in other ways as well against Central. He touched the ball 9 times, racked up 66 yards from scrimmage, and scored 2 touchdowns. So he's big, he's burly, but he's not just a blocker. Brian's Hunter Towdy.
Somerset, it's an NEC Audible.
Let's take a listen to the head coaches on both sides of Saturday's matchup, Sacred Heart at Wagner. Seahawks head coach Jason Hotelling has come away impressed with what he's seen thus far from Sacred Heart's quarterback and offensive line play.
They've played a lot of football games. They've won a lot of football games. Quarterback does a great job. Their offensive line is really playing well this year. So, but when we look at certain positions, I think we have some really good players, and we're going to attack certain areas where we think we have an advantage. And at the end of the day, it's going to be 2 teams playing extremely hard up here on Grimes Hill, and it should be a good one.
For Sacred Heart head man Mark Nofri, his team is coming off a big victory, so it's important to guard against overconfidence. Nofri knows the Pioneers are in for a challenge on Grimes Hill.
It could be a trap game. People talk about it all the time. I mean, we go, Stony Brook beats Richmond the week before, they play us, and then we end up beating them pretty handily that game. That's what you don't want to happen this week. We're coming off a big win. We're beating Stony Brook, a CAA school. We got to go down to Wagner, tough place to play. Very good football team, very athletic, physical. We got to be on our game. The Stony Brook game was a great win, but now we're going to conference play.
The Week 5, did you know, focuses on Sacred Heart's signal caller. Did you know that SHU quarterback RJ Noel can become the first man in Northeast Conference history to rack up 10,000 yards of total offense? Noel, a dual threat and 3-time All-NEC first-team selection, is the league's all-time career leader in total offense, 9,580 yards. He can change a game using either his arm or his feet, as evidenced in his 92 touchdowns responsible for. That's first amongst active FCS career leaders. 71 TD passes, 21 rushing touchdowns. And when he does both, the Pioneers are hard to beat. Sacred Heart is 18-0 all-time in games where Noel records at least 1 passing touchdown and 1 rushing TD. So as we do every week, we've given you what you need to know about Northeast Conference football. Basically, the whole 9 yards on NEC FB. For Front Row, I'm Ralph Ventre. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week on the whole 9 yards.